Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem, welcome back to today's Daf, which is Eruvin Daf Memhe. We are at the 2 dots, which is 9 lines from the top of the Amud. Says the Gemara, V'chol hayotzin lahatzel choyzron l'mekayman. The Mishnah concluded with this statement: all those that go out on a rescue mission, choyzron l'mekayman, they can go back l'mekayman, which implies all the way back home. Says the Gemara, V'afilu tuva, even if it involves traveling more than the shear of 2,000 amma. For Amris Reisha, Alpayim Amma V'suloi. You've just told me in the first part of the Mishnah, these people are granted a radius of 2,000 in each direction. They can't walk more than 2,000. Omar Vidam Arav Shechoizrim B'Klei Zayin L'Mkayman. Doesn't mean to say they can walk more than 2,000. Rather, they can go back home with their weapons due to their ongoing danger, as the Gemara soon will explain. So certainly the limit to 2,000 radius. When it comes to weapons, called yotzim lahatzel, they can go back home with their weapons. Says Ramai Kushi, what was your kasha to begin with? Dilma lahatzel shani. Perhaps there's a difference between those that are going to do a mitzvah, to say the edus and bezdin, or a midwife coming to assist in childbirth, who only have a share of 2,000 amma in either direction. In contrast to these people that are coming lahatzel, to defend from invaders, perhaps here it's different. Due to the ongoing danger, they may go back all the way home, even if it's more than 2,000 amma. So what was your kasha to begin with between the first part of the Mishnah, which gives them only 2,000, and the last part, which allows them to walk even more? Perhaps that's because of the ongoing danger involved. Ela ikasha ha-kasha. Rather, if anything, this was the kasha. Desnan barishoina. The Mishnah Rosh Hashanah tells us, initially, when the Eidim came to testify, they saw new moon. So when they came to the Bezin, since they had traveled more than the Tchum on Shabbos, so although they can arrive there, they're allowed to travel to the Bezin, but once they get there, these people will Yotzichus Tchum. They're limited. And they couldn't leave that area an entire day. Hiskin Ragamlil Hazaken, he enacted a special takana as not to dissuade people from coming to the Edus. Therefore, he made a takana sheyesh lam alpayim amma l'chol ruach. They attain 2,000 in all directions. This is a special takana. B'lo elu b'vad. Not only these people that are coming to testify about the new moon. B'lo elu b'vad omru ela afilu chachama abad liyalid. Even a midwife which is coming to aid in childbirth. V'abol hatzel min hagayis. One who is coming to defend from invaders, from a flood, from a collapsed building, from a fire. All these people, due to the fact that they're coming for the sake of pikuach nefesh, so even if they have traveled past the tchum, we give them 2,000 amma. Hariyenka and she'ir, they're considered like everybody else in the city. And they're granted 2,000 amma in all directions. So the Mishnah here clearly tells us, in this list we have the one that's coming to lahatzum and agayis, coming to rescue, defend from invaders. And he's only granted, how much? 2,000 amma. V'suloi, only 2,000, and no more. V'amris, you have said in the Mishnah Eruvin, kol yotzin lahatzel, choizim l'koyman. Filu tuva. Those that go on a rescue mission to defend from invaders, they're allowed to go back all the way home, even if it involves more than 2,000. So this is a kasha. The kasha between our Mishnah, which allows them more than 2,000, in contrast to the Mishnah in Rosh Hashanah, which limits them to 2,000. Omar Vidam Arav Shechoizrim B'Klei Zayin L'Mkayman. Says Rabbi Yehuda, the name of Rav, our Mishnah never meant to say they have more than 2,000. They can't go all the way back home if it involves traveling more than 2,000. Rather, the Mishnah is simply saying that we allow them to go back home carrying their weapons. Why is that necessary? Kedesanya. But Rishoyna initially, when they were done defending, they would leave their weapons in the first house near the chayma. They would leave them there so that they wouldn't travel with them back home, carry them outside, the Ravim, Carmelites. Pamachas, one time, what happened was, so when they left their weapons in his home and they started heading back home, the enemies detected them as they were leaving the city, and they started pursuing them. So they had to go back to find their weapons from that home. So they went back into the home to get their weapons. And it was a small, narrow area. And the enemies followed them. They pushed each other around. A stampede ensued. And this resulted in them killing more of each other, more than the enemies killed. At that point, they were masakin. They should go back home carrying their weapons. So this is what Rabbi Yehuda Rav was referring to. The Mishnah tells us all those that are out on a rescue mission, go back home with your weapons. But certainly when it comes to the actual tchum allowance, they're only allowed a share of 2,000 and no more. So we had a kasha between our Mishnah and Mishnah Shoshana. The conclusion was, when it comes to tchum, it's only 2,000. Our Mishnah is simply adding another element. They should go back home with their weapons. From Nachum Yitzchak Omar, he has another teretz to the kasha. Our Mishnah, which seems to imply chayzul mekayman can go back home, even if it involves traveling more than 2,000. Contrast with the Mishnah Shoshana, which grants them only 2,000. You know what the answer is? Depending on the result of the war. Like kasha, the answer is like this: Kasha nitzchu Yisrael esumas olam. When the Yisrael were victorious over the Goyim, in that case, there's no need for them to travel more than 2,000. Khan, our Mishnah, which allows them to travel more, is speaking about shenitzchu umas olam as atzmon. The Goyim defeated themselves. This is a euphemism, meaning the Israel lost the war, in which case there's still some danger present there. The ongoing sakana, therefore our Mishnah says, chayzul mekayman, they can go all the way back home, even if it involves traveling more than 2,000 amma. So in conclusion, in terms of the tchum, the Gemara tells us it depends on the result of the war. If the Israelim were victorious, they only have 2,000. Otherwise, they can go all the way back home. In addition to that, the Gemara says they can carry home their weapons. Amar Bida Marav, Nochrim Shetzora or Ayoris Yisrael. If Nochrim laid a siege on the cities of Yisrael, Ein Yoitzin Aleim B'chlei Zainan. One is not allowed to confront them with weapons, to endanger yourself unnecessarily. Vein Mechalanes Aleines HaShabbos, nor can they be Mechal Shabbos to defend the city. Tani Nami Hachi, we learned likewise in the Brayso, Nochrim Shetzora V'chulu, that you're not meant to confront them with weapons, nor to be Mechal Shabbos for this purpose. Explains the Brayso. When is this said? That's only when there's no bodily danger involved. Kshebo al iskei mammon, when the Nachum only arrived with financial interests in mind, they came to loot, to rob, in which case you're not meant to confront them with weapons, nor to be Mechal Shabbos, since there's no real sakanas nefashis. Aval bol is nefashis. However, if they came to actually threaten the Israelim, yoitzim aleim b'chlei zayin, in this case, the sakanas nefashis, and you meant to go out and confront them with weapons, umachal alein Shabbos, and also to be Mechal Shabbos, it's pekuach nefesh. Continues the Gemara. Ube'ir hasmuchal esfar. Let's say the city that was besieged is a city which is near the border. It's between the place where the Israel live and the Nachrim live. In this case, due to its strategic location, it's more crucial, it's vital to defend the city properly, lest it fall in the hands of the Nachrim and perhaps pave the way, make the rest of the country vulnerable to our attack. Therefore, in this case, a city which is near the border, even if they know with certainty the Goyim did not come to personally threaten them, merely to grab some hay, some straw. It's only a financial interest here. Even in this case, they go confront them with weapons, and they're Mechal Shabbos, because meant to look ahead. And since this can lead to Pekuach Nefesh, we're meant to stop it right here. Omar Rav Yosef bar Menumi, Omar Rav Nachman, Bavel, there's a location in Bavel, Ki'ir HaSmuchal Esfar Damya, which is like a city next to the border. What is that? V'tirgumun arda he was referring to this town of Narda, which was situated in between the area of the Israelim and the Nachrim. So it has a din like a border city, and you want to defend it at all costs. Let's take a look at Rashi. So right off to the right side, we have the Rashi, which begins with the words Ein Yotzin Aleim. So not meant to confront them with weapons, because the Farsh will come on, as the Gemara soon will explain. If the Goyim only arrived with mumming interests, then we're not meant to defend it to the extent of confronting them with weapons, or be Mechal Shabbos. However, if it's a city which is Smucha L'Sfar, says Rashi, L'Sfar Irshim Avdeles Ben Gvul Yisrael Gvul Umois. If it's between the boundary of the Yisrael and the Umois, Yotzin Aleim, then they go out and attack them. Shemel Kedua, perhaps they'll conquer the city of Misham. Tei Noicha Eretz L'Kavish Lefnei. Perhaps this will make the rest of the Eretz vulnerable for attack. Now, what type of city in Bavel? Tirguma Ezu Ir Bavel. That was Smucha L'Sfar. That was Nardo. Sheish Smucha L'Nachrim Mitzad Echad. It was situated next to the Nachrim on one side. Yarois Sheyesh Mem Bnei Goyim Mitzad Sheni. On the other side, you had the Yisraelim sitting, and therefore it was categorized as a border city. Darash Rav Dustoi de Min Beri. Says the Gemara, will bring a riot to this concept that this type of city is meant to be defended to this extent. Dorash Rabbi Dustoi de Min Beri. Ma'idich. How do we understand the pasuk which says Vayagidu leDavid Lemar? They informed David as follows: Hine Plishtim nilchamim beKeila. Look, the Plishtim are battling in the town of Keila. And they're looting the granaries. Tana, we learned in Brisa, Keila ira smucha l'sfar hoisa. It was this type of border city. And the Plishtim only arrived with financial interest in mind, to loot some teven, some kash. That was their interest, to loot the granaries. Uksiv vayishal David Hashem lemar. Hashem asked, David asked by Hashem, meaning through the Urim V'Tumim, the Choshen Mishpat of the Kohen Gadol. So he asked the following question: Ha'elech v'kisi v'plishtim ha'elech? Should I go strike at these plishtim? Should I go make war? V'yamar Hashem al David, lech v'kisi v'plishtim, go strike at them. V'yishatas Keila, and you're going to rescue Keila. So that's what exactly was David HaMelech's question here? So we're speaking about, it was Shabbos perhaps? Ilema Ishari Asr? It was Shabbos, he wanted to know when he's allowed to wage war, when they knew with certainty that their interest was only financial. So that was the question he was asking the Urim V'Tumim. Allah Shaila, we're not meant to ask the Urim V'Tumim. Torah says, Leiba Shemayimi. Torah's not in heaven. You can't determine halacha by asking the Kohen Gadol's Urim V'Tumim. Harei Beis Dina Shel Shmuel or Ramasi Kayim. The Bezdin of Shmuel was functioning. You had to go ask the Bezdin a halacha question. So that couldn't be the Shaila. Ella, rather, what was the question? Imatzlach, Iloi Matzlach. This question was, I know you're allowed to, but am I going to be successful? And that's what he was asking the Urim V'Tumim. Imatzlach, am I going to be successful? Iloi Matzlach or not? Deikanabi, we see from the response, Hashem's response, what exactly his question was. Hashem responded, go and strike at the Plishtim, and you'll be successful. You're going to rescue Keila. Shema Mina. Apparently, that was his question. Am I going to be successful? Hashem responded in the affirmative. But certainly, David HaMelech knew that one is meant to confront them with weapons, even though it involves endangering oneself, because this was a border city. Number two, he also knew that this was mutter to be done on Shabbos. His question only was regarding the success of his mission. Hashem responded, yes, he will be successful. So in summary, we learned that ones who go out to protect others from invaders, yotzim lahatzal, they're meant to go back home with their weapons. What about the amount of space, area they can travel? So that depends. If the Israelim were victorious, Nitzchu Yisrael, then they only have a share of 2,000. However, Lo Nitzchu Yisrael, if the Yidden were not victorious, then they may go back all the way home, even if it involves traveling more than 2,000. The Gemara concluded, if they nachram with saru al Yoros Yisrael, they laid siege on the Jewish cities, then who meant to go confront them with weapons, Mechal Shabbos, in the following two scenarios. Either if they came al Iskin Nefashis to personally threaten the Israelim, or if it was an Ira Smuchal Sfar border city, in which case, in any event, it meant to go out and defend it even on Shabbos. Continues the Mishnah, Mishi Yasha Baderach, this person was traveling, decided to take a rest. He sat down, and after a while, after Shabbos arrives, V'amad v'ra haru samach l'ir. He gets up and he realizes, look, I was in the tchum of a city. And he didn't know this during Ben Hashmashis. So what's the halach? Does he only get 2,000 amos in all directions from his current location? Or do we say, perhaps since he was within the tchum, the boundary of the city, he has the din like a city resident who's allowed to walk throughout the city and also at a radius of 2,000 around that city. Says the Mishnah, since he had no intention, he had no kavanah to become part of that city, he cannot go in, meaning he only has 2,000 amma in all directions. Rabbi Yehuda, even if he was totally unaware that he was near the city, he can go into the city, meaning he can regard himself like all the other residents of that city, who to them the city is like 4 amas. It's not calculated as part of the tchum. In addition to that, they have a 2,000 amma radius around that city. Oh, Rabbi Yehuda, I'll prove it to you. It was actually a story. V'nichnas Rabbi Tarfon b'lemiskaven. This very thing happened to Rabbi Tarfon, that he was sitting near a city. It got dark, and then he got up and he says, "Well, I'm near a city." And what happened was, he went into the city and regarded himself like everybody else. Continues Gemara Tanya, we learned in the Brayso, which provides us more details of this story. Amar Yehuda Mas Rabbi Tarfon. There was a story of Rabbi Tarfon Shaya Malach Baderech. He was traveling on the road. V'chosh chaloi, and it got dark Friday night. V'lon chutz la'ir. He spent his night outside the city. They didn't have lights in those days. He didn't know that he was near a city. L'shachris matzu reyu bakar. In the morning, these shepherds found him. Amar loy, and they told him, Rabbi, haraya ir lefanecha hikonis. Welcome, come to the town. Nichnas, indeed, he went in. V'yasha beis hamedrash v'dorash kol yom kulei. And he arrived to the beis medrash, and he sat and gave a drush the entire day. So we see, although he was unaware of his whereabouts, he considered himself, he granted to himself the same halacha as all the other inhabitants of the city. Amar loy misham raya. Said, respond to Rabbi Yehuda, how could he bring a raya from there? Perhaps he knew that he was near the city, and he intended on being part of that city. Or perhaps you know how he got to the Beis Medrash? Because it was within 2,000 amma of his present location. That's not to say that he'll get the tchum of the city. He has 2,000 either direction. The Beis Medrash so happened to be located within that 2,000 amma limit. So in summary, according to Reb Meir, in order to attain the status of the tchum, just like the other members of that town, he needs to know that he's there. He needs to connect himself to the city. Whereas according to Rabbi Yehuda, if he's there, if he's within the tchum, it's automatic. Rabbi Yehuda says a tchum of a city is like an extension of the city. If you're within the tchum, it's like you're within the city. You don't have to know about it. You don't have to be aware about it. Whereas according to Reb Meir, the tchum is like an extension of the residence, the residency of that city. So, if you're part of that city, if you connect yourself to the residential aspect of that city, then sure, you're included in that din. But if you're unaware of your location and you don't that personal element, the personal factor is not there, then you don't have a din like all the other people of that city. Rather, you get your own tchum, which is 2,000 amma in all directions. Continues the next Mishnah. Mishi Yasham B'derech. So this person was asleep during Ben Hashmashis. He was traveling, sat down for a nap, and he slept throughout Ben Hashmashis. And He only woke up, he became aware of what's going on after nightfall. So during Ben Hashmashos, he was asleep. What happens there? Does he get a shvisa? Does it become his Shabbos residence and 2,000 am in all directions are considered to be his tchum? Or, since he wasn't aware, he wasn't awake, during Ben Hashmashos, he didn't have the ability to acquire shvisa, and therefore he's limited to 4 amas. He doesn't have a tchum. Says the Mishnah, Yesh le alpayim amma l'chol ruach. This fellow attained your standard shvisa, and he gets 2,000 in all directions. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda Nuri holds even if a person is asleep, he gets a tchum. V'chacham oimrim, no, ein lo ela arba amos. He doesn't get 2,000 all directions. He was asleep. He cannot be koiner shvisa. He can't acquire. It's an acquisition. He can't acquire it when he's asleep, and therefore he's like a person without a tchum, and he gets 4 amas. That's his personal space, but no more than that. That's one machlekes. Now, a person that has 4 amas, whether it's in this case according to Chachamim, or as we mentioned at the beginning of the parak, a person actually left his tchum, in which case he only has 4 amas. In any of these situations, where are those 4 amas? Which direction? We have a machlekes. Rabbi Lezer Omer, v'hu be'emtzon. We apply the formula of v'hu be'emtzon. He's right in the middle. It's 2 amas in either direction. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, no. Le'ezer ruach sheyitza le'elech. You can choose any 4 amas in any directions. Whether it's this side or that side, not necessarily is he tied to any specific 4 amas. However, Rabbi Yehuda certainly would agree. Shem bir loy, once he makes that choice, okay, I'm going to use the 4 amas to the east. He can't change his mind. That becomes established as his 4 amas for the entire Shabbos. Continues the Mishnah. Let's say we have 2 people that got stuck out in the wilderness, and each one has 4 amas for his personal use. So we have Eruvin, we have Shimon, and 6 amas in between. So if Eruvin chooses the 4 amas which are facing Shimon, and Shimon likewise chooses that his 4 amas will be 4 amas facing Eruvin. So it turns out that the middle 2 amas overlapping are shared. Says the Mishnah, Hoyu Shnayim, if we have 2 people, Miktsas amoisav shel zeh, b'sech amoisav shel zeh. A portion of this one's amas are overlapped, are embedded in a portion of the other person's amas. So they share the middle 2 amas. Mevin v'echem be'emtza, they can bring their food and eat right in the middle, in that shared space. Let's take a look at Rashi before we turn the page. Rashi, 3 lines from the bottom. Masnisin ein lo ela dal amas. This was the case of the person who was asleep during Ben Hashmashos. Rabbi Yehuda Nuri says he gets 2,000 amas in all directions. Whereas the Chacham say no, he wasn't awake. He doesn't get shvisa. He only gets 4 amas. It says Rashi, hoyel v'yoshanaya, since he was asleep, then his kaval liknei shvisa. He had no intention to acquire shvisa, so he doesn't get the tchum. So now once he has 4 amas, let's analyze. How does that work? Rabbi Lezer says, Vu be'emtzoin, he's right in the middle. Shal dal amas, koloimar beis amas, yesh lechot tzidaf. He has 4 amas in either direction. Rabbi Yehuda says, Lezer roch sheyirtze. He told dal amas. He can choose any one that he'd like. Once he chooses the 4 amas in one direction, he can no longer choose in the other direction. We have 2 people, who are situated vav amas, situated 6 amas apart. Which results in 2 of those amas being shared. So what can they do? They bring their food and they eat right in the middle, which is their shared territory. Continues the Mishnah. But they must make sure that must make sure not to transfer anything into their other person's territory, meaning they can only share those 2 amas. But when they're there, they shouldn't mistakenly transfer something over to his friend's territory. As Rashi explains, because the 4 amas here are considered your personal space. It's like a Rishus HaYochid. So you don't mean literally it's enclosed area like Rishus HaYochid, but in Rabban they granted it a status of it's your personal space. It's your Rishus HaYochid, and therefore You must keep your utensils within your space, within your area. You can't go ahead and transfer over to the other person's area. Continues the Mishnah. Let's say there were 3 people there. So it was Reuven, all the way on one side, Shimon, all the way on the other, with 8 amas in between. And there was a third party, Levi, who was smack in the middle. He occupied the middle 4 amas. In which case, he was sharing 2 amas with Reuven, 2 amas with Shimon. And the middle fellow, Levi, was embedded right in between them. Hu mutar iman, he can go ahead and interact with them. He can go transfer back and forth with them, meaning the 2 amas which he shares with Reuven, he can transfer things with Reuven. And the 2 amas which he shares with Shimon, he can go ahead and interact with Shimon and transfer things back and forth. And they can interact with him as well. However, the 2 outer ones, Reuven and Shimon, who are too far apart, they can't go ahead and transfer to each other because they're too far apart. They don't share any territory. Amr Shimon. What is this similar to? To the following scenario. If there are 3 chatzeros open to each other, so we have a straight line of 3 courtyards, A, B, and C. And they're all open to each other. A is open to B, B is open to C. And each one of them has their separate independent entrance or exit to Shasarab. Let's say A and C made an Eruv with B, with the middle one. So that allows them to transfer back and forth to the middle one. So the middle one, which is C, is allowed to transfer to them, and they're allowed to transfer to the middle one, because they're Eruv with each other. However, but the 2 outer ones, A and C, have no Eruv with each other. So it's a peculiar situation. They have an Eruv with the middle fellow, but they don't have an Eruv with each other. So Asura is Zoimzu, they cannot transfer one from the other. Meaning, a Kli that began in this Chatzar cannot end up in this Chatzar, because they have no Eruv to allow transferring from the 2 Chatzeros at the extreme end of this line. So this is reminiscent of the case in our Mishnah. We have 3 fellows, Reuven, Shimon, and Levi. They share territory with Levi, so they can interact with him. He can interact with them, but Reuven and Shimon, cannot interact with each other. So in summary, we learned that a person who's asleep during Mashmashes, according to the Chachamim, he was not kind of Shvisa because he wasn't aware and awake in order to acquire that Tchum. He only has 4 amis. As the Mishnah elaborates exactly how that works, whether he's in the middle, whether he can choose in either direction. 3 people together, 2 people together. According to Rabbi Yehuda, although he was asleep, he will acquire Eden Shvisa. He will get 2,000 amma in all directions. Then one is going to analyze, what is Rabbi Yehuda Nuri's svara? By Rava. Ma'ikasava Rabbi Yehuda Nuri. What is the reason for that shita, that a person who's asleep can acquire shvisa? On the one hand, perhaps you can say, Mizbar Kasavar, he holds, Chefzi Hefker Koin Shvisa. Even something which is Hefker can acquire Shvisa. Now we know that just as a person gets Shvisa, he gets a Shabbos residence, and a Tchum around his residence at a radius of 2,000 Amma, his possessions as well can only be transferred throughout the area where the person can walk. So a person and his possessions are bound by the boundaries of the Tchum. What about Hefker, something which is ownerless? Does that get a Tchum? If you find something in the street, can that be transferred out of its 2,000 Amma? For instance, if the person who finds it made an area of Tchum and he can walk all the way in the other direction, can he take that item that he finds and transfer it out of its 2,000 Amma radius? Does a chayfetz which is hefker acquire shvisa or not? Says the Gemara, let's analyze. There's Rabbi Yehuda Nuri who says that a person who's asleep during Mashmashes gets shvisa. Does he mean to say that chefzi hefker koin shvisa, even something which is ownerless, which is like this person who was not aware of what's going on, he didn't consciously acquire shvisa. He's like a chayfetz of hefker. And Rabbi Yechon says he's kind of shvisa. So perhaps even a hefker chayvetz will get shvisa. Let's take a look at Rashi. Just about in the middle of the Amid, of the column of Rashi, beginning with the word Gemara. It says Rashi, Chefze hefker, kelim she'en lem bailam. Ownerless items. V'chashechel hem makam echad. They were sitting at a certain location, it got dark. Perhaps, are they kind of shvisa? Afagav. Shleinis skavelem adam. Not kind of shvisa. Even though there was no owner, there was nobody there to grant them shvisa. Kind of shvisa b'mkaiman. They are still kind of shvisa. What is the ramification of shvisa by the hefker? A person who goes and finds it cannot go ahead and transfer it more than 2,000 in any direction. Even if he personally made an Erev which allows him to walk 4,000 amma to the east, let's say, he can't pick up this item and transfer it to that location because this item is bound by its own personal shvisa, which is a radius of 2,000. So that's one side of the Gemara. Continues the Gemara. So if that's the case, the Rabbi Yechon holds that even a hefker item is kind of shvisa. Ubedinhu deliflu bekelim. Now, truthfully, if that's the case, then the Mishnah could have established the machlekes by a kli, meaning that any kli sitting out in the open, according to Rabbi Yechon ben Nuri, is kind of shvisa. Why do they have their machlekes specifically when it comes to a person who's asleep, and not concerning a kli which is hefker? This was meant to highlight the shita of the rabbanon, the afagav the ikalamema, because a person involves a greater chiddush. When you say that a person who's asleep doesn't get shvisa, that's a tremendous chiddush according to rabbanon, because there's room to think otherwise. Afagav the ikalamema, even though you can say hayavanir kana, since had this person have been awake, conscious and aware of his whereabouts, he would have certainly been kind of shvisa. So perhaps due to that, yoshinami kana, even when he's asleep, he'll still be kind of because he's a person. He has the ability to acquire shvisa. Additionally, the presumption here is that he wants shvisa. So there's that implicit consent here. So that's the chiddush. Kamash Shmala and Deloy. The Mishnah informs us, no, according to Rabban, if he wasn't aware, if he wasn't conscious, he wasn't awake, he doesn't get shvisa. That's one side of the equation. That Rabbi Yechon ben Nuri's halacha applies even to a chayvetz hefker. It gets its shvisa. The reason why we discussed a person was to highlight the Rabbanah shit. Even a person will not get shvisa. And certainly a kli hefker won't get shvisa. Or perhaps, on the other side of the coin, we can say, Kasav Rabbi Yechon ben Nuri, ba'alma, generally speaking, he holds hefker ein kain shvisa. Something which is hefker cannot get shvisa. Only a person, only something which belongs to a person, has shvisa. The pasuk says, "Al yetze ish mim kaimai b'yom Shabbos." A person not meant to leave his boundaries on Shabbos. A person, his utensils, something that relates to people, but something which is hefker, it's ownerless. There's no shvisa when it comes to hefker. So that's agreed upon by all. The discussion merely pertains to a person who's asleep. And over here, the reason why Rabbi Yechon says that a person who's asleep gets shvisa, due to the fact that he's a person. Since had he been awake, he would have been kind, right? So based on that, we say Yashanami kana. Even when he's asleep, he has the ability to be kind of shvisa. So that's the shaila here. The Mishnah discusses a person who's asleep during Ben Hashmashis. According to Rabbi Yechon ben Nuri, he acquires shvisa, he gets 2,000 in all directions. According to Rabban, he does not. The question is, what is the time of Rabbi Yechon? Is it because he holds that even a hefker object gets shvisa? You don't have to have any awareness, any das. He'll get shvisa, and the reason why they discussed the person was to highlight the Rabbanan's opinion. Rabbanan hold hefker doesn't get shvisa, and even a person, since he wasn't consciously aware of his whereabouts, he wasn't consciously aware that it's been a shmashes, and he'd like to be kind of shvisa, he doesn't get shvisa. That's one side of the coin. The other side, perhaps, no, even Rabbi Yechon would agree that merely a chayfetz of hefker won't be kind of shvisa. It's only a person who's a bar shvisa, he's a bar das, he has the ability to make a kinyan. It's only over there. And even if he's asleep, because he's still the same person. There's an implicit consent that he wants that, he would like that shvisa. And since he has the ability to be kind of shvisa, even if he happens to be asleep, going to Rabbi Yechon, he's kind of shvisa. While he's going to Rabbanon, since he's practically asleep and unaware, he won't get shvisa. So that's being a raya, whether or not Rabbi Yechon holds that a hefker thing will get shvisa. Rabbi Yosef Tashma bring a raya from the following halach. Geshamim sheyardim erev yantiv. If it rained on erev yantiv, so that water, yesh lehem apayim amal chol rach. They can be transferred at a radius of 2,000. They attain shvisa, even though they were ownerless. Nobody owned them. Be yantiv, if it rained on yantiv itself, in which case it was not down here during ben hashmashes, so it didn't really acquire shvisa. Harehein kiraga kol adam. Anybody who picks up this water can transfer it to where he can walk, because the rain itself doesn't have its own boundary. So that's halach. Let's analyze. Iyamas b'shleima. Now this works well if you say kasava Rabbi Yochanan Nuri chefze hefker koine shvisa. So if you say that according to him, even something which is hefker gets shvisa. Apparently he holds that even something which is hefker and currently not owned, but we know that the whole world was created for personal use. In fact, the Rashi at the end of Maseches Beitza, which says that a person draws water, he's speaking about a well which belongs to partners. He says that when you draw your bucket of water, min hashamayim, it's been revealed, this was intended for you. It's like right out of a Musa Sefer. Hashgacha pratis. This was meant for you. This was destined for your personal use. So probably Rabbi Yechon holds even something which is currently hefker. It's meant for personal use. It's meant for a person to get a hold of it. So it contains that personal element, and therefore it gets shvisa. So if that's the case, if you propose that Rabbi Yechon hefker gets shvisa, then we understand the pshat in this brayso. Hamani Rabbi Yechon. Apparently this brayso which says that if it rained erev yantiv, that water must be kept within the limits of 2,000. That's because although it was hefker, it gets shvisa. However, if you say that according to Rabbi Yechon, hefker doesn't get shvisa. Hamani. Whose opinion is this brayso following? Lo Rabbi Yehuda. It's following neither Rabbi Yehuda, but lo Rabbanan, nor Rabbanan, who certainly don't hold that hefker gets shvisa. So we seem to have a clear raya that indeed according to Rabbi Yehuda, even hefker gets shvisa. So hefker gets shvisa, and certainly a person who's asleep gets shvisa. Whereas according to Rabbanan, not only does hefker not get shvisa, even a person who's yashin during hashmashes and not aware, it does not get his shvisa, merely limited with farmers. So this was the right that Rav Yosef brought. Yosef Abaye, so Abaye was sitting, Abaye was Rav Yosef's Talmud, so he was sitting and saying over this brayso and this raya to prove the point. Amalei Rav Safra Abaye. So Rav Safra challenged this raya. You're proposing according to Rabbi Yochanan Nuri, hefker gets shvisa? What's your raya? The fact that brayso says if it rained on erev yantiv, it's limited to a tchum of 2,000. Says Rav Safra, v'dilma, b'kshamim hasuchim l'iraskinin. Perhaps we're speaking about this rain, which was within the vicinity of the city. V'anchi oisir da'atim ala ilayu. And it was destined to be used by the people of the city. They've designated this water for their personal use, in which case it certainly gets shvisa because they're granting shvisa. It's connected to them. It's intended for their use. So it gets the shvisa of the residents of that town. That's not your typical hefker, something you're sitting out in the wilderness, not intended to be used by anybody specific. Where according to Rabbi Yehuda, even according to Rabbi Yehuda, that wouldn't have shvisa. You can't bring a raya from rain near the city to a regular hefker. Amar lei. Sabai responded, you can't say that. Lo sal kadaitach. You can't say that the basis for this halacha is because it's next to the city, it's intended for their personal use. But a typical hefker will not have a tchum according to Rabbi Yehuda, because we have a Mishnah and another brayso, and the sum total of that equation will prove to us that indeed according to Rabbi Yehuda, hefker gets shvisa. This is not. Boishal yachid karagli yachid. The water in a privately owned well can only be transferred karagli yachid, as far as that owner can walk, because it's his possession. Shel oisair, a well which belongs to the dwellers of the city, a public well, karagli oisair, can be transferred to where the people of the city can go, meaning throughout the city and 2,000 beyond. Shel oili bavel, this is the third level. This is completely hefker. It's on the way up from Babel to Yisrael. it's meant to be used by the wayfarers, it's hefker. Kiragu imale. The water there is not bound by anything. It's free. It's meant to be transferred to where the person who's actually filling out water can walk. It's up to him. So what do we see here? That hefker does not get shvisa. Otherwise, this water would be limited to its 2,000 radius. Tanya, however, we have another brisa. Bar shel shvatim. This is well which belongs to the tribes, meaning it's totally hefker. This water can be transferred only throughout this area of 2,000 in either direction. Apparently, it attained the shvisa during Ma'ash Moshes. Kashna Dadi. We have a stira between Mishnah number 1, which says the hefker water is unrestricted, does not have shvisa, and the brisa here, which tells us that hefker water is restricted to a tchum of 2,000. Apparently, you conclude from this there are two opinions here. Rabbi Yehuda that the brisa, which tells us that the water is limited to 2,000, is Rabbi Yehuda who holds that hefker gets shvisa. Harabanan, in contrast to the Mishnah, which is following Shittas Rabbanan, who hold that hefker does not have shvisa. So I have a very clear raya, says Abaye, that according to Rabbi Yehuda, indeed, hefker gets shvisa. Okay, that was the end of that conversation. When Abaye returned to Rabbi Yosef, Amalei, he related to him. Rabbi Yosef was the one who had proved from the story, from the brisa of Geshamim, the Geshamim that came down to Erev Yom Tov, that have a share of 2,000. He proved from there that Rabbi Yehuda holds hefker gets shvisa. So he came back to Rabbi Yosef, Amalei, and he told him, Hachi ka'amar of Safra. V'achi hadrulei. When I presented your raya from the halach of Geshamim, this is what Rav Safra challenged. And this is what I responded to him. I brought him a raya from the halacha of the bur to support your contention that according to Rabbi Yehuda, you have to get shvisa. Amalei. So Yosef responded to Abaye, why do you need to have to bring a raya from the halacha of the well? Why don't you bring him a raya from the actual brisa of the rain itself? Which proves my point. Why? Because if you propose, or if Safra proposed, you can't make a raya from the brisa which says that for rain that of Yom Tov, that rain is bound to a tchum of 2,000. You can't make a raya that hefker gets shvisa. Why? Perhaps we're speaking about rain which is close to the city, which is intended for the city dwellers' use, and therefore it gets the tchum of the city. Says Rav Yosef, you could have responded to him, and disproven him as follows. If you propose that that's the situation, rain which is near the city, and that's why they get shvisa, what does the brisa say? The brisa says that the rain which falls in Erev Yom Tov can be carried only within a radius of 2,000 amma, indicating that it has its own personal independent shvisa. According to Rav Safra, that attributes this water to the city, and therefore it gets the tchum of who? Of the residents of the city. It's a different type of tchum. One who lives in the city, he can transfer throughout the city, and also 2,000 beyond. It's a different type of equation. So why does the brisa say that this water can only be taken 2,000 amma at a radius from its present location? Which is a totally different type of shear. If you propose, we're speaking about rain which is near the city and attains the shvisa of the city. Why does the brisa say it gets 2,000 in all directions, which implies that it's its own independent shvisa, because it's a chayvaz of hefker, which is kind of shvisa? The brisa should have said it can be carried where the members of the city can walk. If it's connected and related to their shvisa, then the shvisa of this water should be the same and identical to the shvisa of the residents of the city. The fact that the brisa says it gets its own 2,000 amma indicates that the following Rabbi Yehuda ben Nuri holds that a chayvitz of hefker gets its own personal shvisa. So in summary, regarding kinyan shvisa, so in the first Mishnah we learned that if a person happened to be within the boundary of a city unknowingly, according to a mayor, it doesn't work. He gets his own personal shvisa, of course, 2,000 all directions, but he's not considered like the members of the city who can walk throughout the city freely, plus 2,000 all directions. According to Rabbi, you need to have kavanah to become like a member of that city. According to Rabbi Yehuda, no kavanah is necessary. Since you're within the confines, within the boundary of that city, you automatically are considered like a member of that city. We learned that a person who's near, who's awake, certainly gets shvisa. Possessions of a person have the same boundary of the person himself. What about a person who's sleeping? Or a chayvetz of hefker? Going to Rabbanan, these things are not kind of shvisa. So a person who's sleeping, he only gets 4 amis. A chayvetz which is hefker is not bound at all. Whoever picks it up can take it to where he needs to go. Going to Rabbi Yehuda, in both cases, they get your standard shvisa of 2,000 amma in all directions. Continues the Gemara. Amar Mar, we just learned in the Brisa that according to Rabbi Yehuda, if rain arrived in Erev Yom Tov, it has its tchum because hefker gets 2,000 amma in either direction. However, by Yom Tov, if the rain only arrived on Yom Tov, harihen keragel kol adam, then it doesn't have its own independent tchum. Rather, the person who fills the water can take that water to whichever location he can walk, because this water doesn't have its own independent tchum. Why not? Likni shvisa b'yukyanis. Let this water have attained shvisa when it was still back in the yukyanis, in the ocean, at sea. So since it attained shvisa at that point, prior to its evaporation and having been formed into clouds, which then produced this rain, so since it was back at sea during Ben Hashmashis, what happens? It gets a shvisa, it gets a tchum, and now, since it went out of its tchum beyond its 2,000 amos, it's like a person who went out of its tchum, like a chayvetz, which is yotzachos tchum. What happens? It only has 4 amos. Why does the Bryce allow him to transfer this water throughout? Likni shvisa b'yukyanis. Leimad like Rabbi Lezer. Perhaps we're not following Rabbi Lezer. Dikar Rabbi Lezer, because according to him, Ha'amar, he said, Kol ha'olam kulai mimei ukyanis u'shois. The entire world gets its water from the ukyanis, from the water of the seas. In contrast with Rabbi Yeshua, it says, the world drinks from the kippah, which is the environment, the atmosphere. Now apparently both elements are present in rain. The evaporation from the bodies of water down below, in addition to the moisture which accumulates from the environment, from the atmosphere. The question is, halachically speaking, what is considered to be the primary ingredient of the rain? According to Rabbi Lezer, the primary element is the water which is drawn from down below. So according to him, when it rains on Yom Tov, this rain should be regarded as something which was down at sea during Ben Hashmashis, attained the shvisa, and now is yotzachos tchum. Says the Gemara, Amar Yitzchak, Hacha ba'avim sheniskashu me'erev Yom Tov askinan. We're speaking about rain which was produced by clouds, which were niskashu me'erev Yom Tov, which were formed from before Yom Tov. They were already up there before Ben Hashmashis. So this rain was not at sea during Ben Hashmashis, and therefore never was kind of shvisa. V'dil mahanach azli. Perhaps these, the ones that he noticed during Ben Hashmashis, have already dispersed. V'hanach achrineninu. And the ones that actually produced the rain are other clouds, which only formed after Ben Hashmashis. In which case, the water in them, perhaps it was at sea during Ben Hashmashis. The Islu Siman of Gavayu has a simon to recognize, yes, these are the ones that were here before Ben Hashmashis. Another pshat. Maybe there's uncertainty. Makes a suffix. Have a suffix devreim. So it's a suffix involving a din derabban, tchum and derabbanan. The suffix devreim lahakol. Any suffix which is devreim, which applies to a derabbanan like tchumen, who meant to go l'kula, and therefore in this case, we don't restrict the water which arrived on Yom Tov. We assume that it was up in the sky during Ben Hashmashis and never was kain shvisa. V'likn shvisa b'avim. Why can't it be kain shvisa while it's still in its cloud form, up in the sky? In which case, we have the same problem. It left its boundary, it's down below, it's chutz l'tchum, it can only be taken 4 hours. Tifshit mino de'en tchumen l'mala miyud. Should we conclude from this that the concept of tchum doesn't apply above 10 tefachim? This was a question we asked earlier in the Gemara, whether or not the restrictions of tchum apply when something is beyond 10 tefachim off the ground. It's not your makam hiluch. So this brisa, which seems to indicate that water which was in the cloud during Ben Hashmashis never acquired Shvisa, seems to indicate that above 10 has no Shvisa. The Eish Tchumen, because if Tchumen do apply above 10, Likni Shvisa above, why doesn't this water get Shvisa while it's in the clouds? Certainly we can say Yesh Tchumen. The restrictions of Tchumen do apply above 10. However, water within the clouds, when it's still in vapor form, it's embedded, it's absorbed in the clouds, meaning it's not the same water which came down as rain. Now it's tangible, now it's real water. This wasn't there in the clouds. When it was in cloud form, it wasn't really tangible, it was vapor. This water here, down below, the one that arrived on Yom Tov, wasn't the same thing as was in the clouds, and therefore, this water was never kind of Shvisa. Says to him, if that's the case, it makes things worse. If it was produced on Yom Tov, it's a new creation, then it's muktzah. It can't even be moved around. It's noilat. It was undesignated. Tosfos points out that even according to Shimon, who generally does not hold noilat to be a problem of muktzah, but here it's a brand new thing, it's a davar chadash, new creation. Even he would agree. It's muktzah. Says the word Ella rather as follows: Maya ba'avim meinad naiti. Let's not say the water that was produced on Yom Tov is considered to be something new. Water, vapor, it's the same thing. It's closely related. That's not the reason. The reason is because Maya ba'avim, water within the clouds, meinad naiti, are moving around. Something in transit doesn't get Shvisa. Shvisa means I'm here. This is my place. This is my boundary. Something which is moving around in transit, like a cloud, is never kind of Shvisa. Says the Gemara, now that you've come to this conclusion, let's go back to our original question. We had a kasha. Perhaps this rainwater was at sea during Ben Hashmashis and was kind of Shvisa there. So based on this answer, we can address that as well. Now that we can come to this conclusion that something which is moving doesn't get Shvisa, the question regarding the Yukainis, the water at sea, that too won't be difficult. Why? That water as well is in transit, is in motion. Vitanya, Naharas Hamoishchem, flowing rivers, and springs which are gushing forth, which are in motion. They don't have their own shvisa. Rather, whoever fills this water could just take it along with him to wherever he can go. Why? Because something which is in motion is not kind of shvisa. So in summary, rain which arrived on Erev Yom Tov, certainly according to Rabbi Yechim and Nuri, is limited to a tchum of 2,000 amma, because it was down here during Ben Hashmashis. However, rain which arrived only on Yom Tov, it doesn't have its own tchum. You can take it to wherever you go, and the reason is, according to the conclusion of the Gemara, it was never kind of shvisa due to the fact that it was constantly in motion during Ben Hashmashis. Okay, time for a brief review of today's daf. We began with a discussion of people that are going out to rescue others, Yotzim Lahatzel. The Gemara tells us they're meant to go back home with their weapons. And how far can they go? So that depends. If the Israelim were victorious, then they're limited to only 2,000 amma. However, if they were not victorious, then there's still danger present. They can go all the way back home, even if an Aval is traveling more than 2,000 amma. The Gemara told us about Nacham Shetzaru ala Yerush Yisrael. If the Nacham are laying siege to a city of Israelim, went to confront them with weapons, the Machal Shabbos. If they came al Iskin Nefashes, they're actually physically threatening the Israelim, or it's a border city which needs to be protected at all costs. We learned that if one stops on the road and unbeknown to him, he's within the tchum of a city. According to our mayor, he doesn't automatically get that tchum because you need to have kavana for that to happen. He gets his own tchum, 2,000 am in each direction. According to Rabbi Yehuda, he gets the tchum of the city. We learned that a person who's awake ben hashmashas, he gets shvisa. The possessions of a person get shvisa. However, a person that's asleep during ben hashmashas, or a chayfetz of hefker, according to Rabbanon, there's no shvisa there. According to Rabbi Yechim Nuri, there is. And we concluded, according to all shittas, something which is in transit, moving during ben hashmashas, will not get shvisa.